appreciate it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
She serves as a temporary justice of peace for Dallas County. She's volunteered at over 40 legal clinics providing free legal services to Dallas County citizens. And she has worked with the Dallas County Democratic Party as a precinct chairperson, a volunteer, and coordinated Dallas County Voter Registration programs for volunteer attorneys from 2008 to 2012. Let's give a big hand to Melissa Bellan.
Thank you and good morning, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. I've been to this breakfast a few times before, but I've never had a chance to speak as a candidate, and it's a little different from this perspective, but I'm glad to see so many friendly faces out here this morning. Many of you know that we do have a runoff in this race, and a lot of you know that this upcoming election is a little bit different than it was for the primary. We have fewer races, and your vote, in my mind, becomes even more important. Each vote in a runoff is like 10 votes in a regular primary. And so I'm grateful to be here today to have a chance to speak to each of you. A lot of you I've spoken to before, and some of you in this room have given me some wonderful advice in this campaign and some encouragement. And I'm glad to get to talk a little bit more about Precinct 5 and what we hope to do there as a Justice of the Peace. As Mr. Garcia said, I am currently a temporary Justice of the Peace, and for those of you who don't know what that means, most of the cases we handle are things that you in your daily life come across. It might be that you're a contractor who's hired to do a job and your client pays you half of the money and you do all of the work, and you have to come in to court to try to right that wrong. It might be that your car was towed from a place where you don't believe it should have been towed from. It might be that you're being evicted from your home or a family member is in a situation of that sort. Those are the types of things that we do at the Justice of the Peace Court, along with enforcing some tickets for the constable and the sheriff's department, along with a few other criminal matters. But most of what we do is on the civil side of things. Most of what we do is the eviction docket, resolving those cases where the amount of controversy may be less than $10,000, and things along that line. I get to do that job now, which I'm very grateful to do. I'm appointed by the Dallas County Commissioner's Court, and I'm sort of like a substitute teacher for JPs. If a JP is out sick or has a vacation, or maybe they know one of the parties, maybe it's their neighbor who's in a dispute with another neighbor and they have to recuse themselves, then I'm appointed to come in and I hear the case and I preside over those cases. And those decisions then resolve that issue for the family, or then they can go on to a next step. So what you get in this candidate is you get someone who does the job right now. You also get someone who has been practicing these areas of the law for over 10 years at this point. I have practiced in each of the types of cases that a JP hears, which is different from a lot of folks who come to this job when they start out. A lot of times you've concentrated in one area, and JPs do a variety of things. Over the last few years, the legislature has changed the rules along with the Texas Supreme Court and has made JP courts more technical in nature. And I think that having someone with a legal experience is very, very important when it comes to those things. I also was an administrator in my law office. I was a partner in a law firm for the last 6 years. And I got to do a lot of great things there. But one thing I learned was management, and that is tougher than I thought it was going to be. I'll be very honest with you. And there's some bumps and bruises along the way and lessons you have to learn. And a big part of this job is administration of the court, and having some experience in doing that and of trying to keep the pieces of a puzzle all working together so that the people are benefiting from it, I think is really important. And I think that's something else that I bring to you. But what I'd like to talk about today is what I need from you, which is I don't live in every neighborhood of Precinct 5, and I need to know what's going on in each of those neighborhoods. I want to know what you're concerned about. I want to know what services are being offered or not being offered. Jose Barrientos, who I see back there, one night during early vote, we stood out in the rain and talked for about a half an hour outside of one of the early voting locations. And he was telling me about a lot of the programs that he had in place over there. Baseball fields that were beautiful that we went and looked at, but that the programs, in order to get the kids on those fields, have been cut. And one of the things that I think that a JP court can do is, one, look for those resources, whether that is looking for grants to bring into your precinct, whether that's one of the ideas that Jose and I talked about was diverting some of the funds that maybe a JP collects in doing marriages, to have a portion of that go into either some sort of organization or fund where we're putting things back into the community. Today, we probably don't have the time for me to hear about all of your great ideas, but I'm going to leave some materials with an email address and a phone number, and I'd like to talk to you if you have those ideas for Precinct 5. It is a place that I have lived in since 2000. I lived in Euless as a kid. Some of you don't know that. I grew up in the area. I went to South Euless Elementary School. I'm a product of great public schools in Texas that have changed over time. And I think that where we have to really focus right now is with our kids and with our families, so that those kids have the support that they need, so that we are continuing to grow and be a wonderful and a better community as we go along. But I'd love to take some questions if anybody has any.
Let's go ahead and both of y'all be able to take questions.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. The next candidate in the runoff for Justice of the Peace is Sara Martinez. She attended the University of Dallas in Irving, and then graduated from Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, California, with a major in Chicano Studies. She then went on to law school at the University of Southern California, where she graduated and continued in participation in public interest law. She worked at the Los Angeles Gay and Lesbian Center for Victims as a victims advocate, assisting survivors of hate crimes. In 2009, she returned to Dallas and began practicing law, and she's currently a public defender with the Dallas County Public Defender's Office, where she's tried more than 1,000 cases. Had more than 1,000 clients. Okay? She currently resides in Oak Cliff with her two beloved chihuahuas, Rocky and Chuck. Big hand to Sara Martinez.
Buenos días. Es un placer estar con ustedes aquí esta mañana. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Sara Martinez, and I am one of your candidates for Justice of the Peace. We had a fantastic primary. It's been really exciting and fun. It was definitely a grassroots effort, and I'm very proud of the work that we've done so far. But the election continues, and the fun doesn't stop. But I've had the time to really reflect these last few weeks on why is it exactly that I wanted to run for this bench. And the issue for me that's been central is the access to justice. I think access to justice is a social justice issue. And I've spent my legal career as a student and as an attorney trying to create access wherever I go. And 2 weekends ago, the Cesar Chavez movie came out. Who here has seen it? It's a great movie. And it got me to thinking. It reminded me so much of me and so much of the life of my family in this country. My parents were farm workers for many years. And I have to tell you, the way that it's depicted in the movies is the way it really is. It's hot, it's dusty. Thank you. There may or may not be a bathroom. You have to bring your own water. So those things really hit home for me. And it reminded me again of the reason why I decided to run for this office. The fight for social justice should not end, and it has to continue here. As residents of Dallas County, we should be thinking about that. We should be thinking of ways to create access, not only in our classrooms, but in our boardrooms and in our courtrooms. And that's the central issue for me. As Mr. Garcia said, I actually was a former public defender, like Lisa Green here. For those of you?
Yes. To run policy.
Right. And like Lisa, I had to resign in order to run for this bench. And I gave up health insurance, retirement, a stable job, because I felt that this was an important job to run for. We must continue to fight for access for people in these courtrooms. And the response to my message has been amazing. From Mountain Valley to Los Altos, Las Lomas, Oak Cliff, Cedar Springs, Forest Hills, Little Forest Hills, White Rock. People have responded to the message that we must continue to create access for people in our courtrooms. Justice cannot begin from the top down. It's got to start from the bottom and go all the way up. And I firmly believe that. And I've dedicated my life to that experience because I know what it's like because I've been there. So I'm asking you to embrace my vision. I'm asking you for your support. I'm asking you for your vote. I cannot do this alone, and I need everyone here to support me. And I'm asking you to come out on May 27th, give us that vote so that together we can continue to create real change. A las personas de habla hispana, estoy aquí para ustedes también. Si tienen preguntas para mí, sería un placer mío contestarlas. El acceso para todas nuestras comunidades es algo muy importante y yo quiero decirles que yo estoy aquí para representarlos a ustedes también. Gracias por su apoyo, les pido su voto, no lo puedo hacer sin ustedes. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
All right, you heard from Ms. Bellan and Ms. Martinez. Do we have any questions for any of the candidates? There's one over here. And if you'll tell us who, and I'll let y'all. Well, both y'all come on up here. Sorry, I'm going to skip the menudo for just 2 minutes.
Hi. My name is Stephanie Gonzalez, and as most of you may or may not know, I have been a prosecutor in the Dallas County JP courts for 10 years. And Sarah, I know I've worked with you for many years in that capacity. And my issue for both of you question is going to deal with access, is something that Sarah, you talked about. I've seen a lot of things. I practiced in all the JP courts, and I've practiced JP 5-1 for all of these years. I particularly, well, I'm not going to mention any names, but in one JP court, a bench, someone's on the bench right now. The judge does not let his clerks speak Spanish to each other. Okay. In another court, the judge does not let his clerks speak Spanish to his constituents that come in. Okay. But yet he will conduct weddings in Spanish. Okay. They get paid to do that, right? Take home that. So my question to you is, how do you intend to serve the people that come in? Okay. Well, let me say something else. Interpreters. That's another big issue. Okay, I have interpreters that come in some courts. Some courts do not. Some courts have their clerks interpret. Some courts have the constituents bring in friends, family. What happens when that happens? They sit in front of me and start interpreting, and I look at them and say, that's not what I said. Okay? And I ask them to introduce me to the person in front of me. I say, oh, well, she's the clerk, the attorney of the court. I'm not the attorney of the court. I don't represent the court. Or try to say words like first position. How do you interpret that? Interpreters are certified for a reason because these terms are complicated. You can't just expect them to come in, or even the clerk of the court to come in and define terms in Spanish that are meant to be interpreted specifically.
So I guess the question is, what are you going to do about staffing, allowing your clerks to speak
Policy.
Spanish?
What are going to be your policy issues?
Okay. And then Mary.
Well, obviously, thank you for that great question, Stephanie. And, you and I have worked together for a long time, as you said. And obviously, this question is very important to me. I mean, my parents didn't speak any English. I went with them many times to be the translator at many different things. So I completely understand what you're talking about. And I think that is a great need in our courts. I don't agree with putting the burden on our clerks to always be the translators. I know they can provide help on a limited basis, but I would like to see a change in JP Court where we have maybe a certified translator be available at the court every day, even if it is maybe a certain period of time of the day. I also speak Spanish, and I am familiar with the terms that you're talking about, and I actually used to translate at misdemeanor court over at Frank Crowley, so I am familiar with that. And I would have no problem speaking to litigants in Spanish or speaking to anybody in Spanish or allowing Spanish to be spoken in my court, but I would like to see that change in our court to have a dedicated person to handle translation duties at the court that is certified and that would be able to properly explain all the Spanish terms that are necessary in our court.
Thank you. That is a great question, and I think it's incredibly important that we focus on that issue, because I think in my life, I've practiced for over 10 years, and I've worked with a lot of different kind of clients, and in my experience, the number one thing is always that understanding the process and what's happening and what something means is what is critical in a legal situation. Because if you don't understand why a judgment or a decision is being made, then you can never be at peace with it, and you can never feel like you've got your rights protected. So when it comes to the idea of having services available, I think we need to have services available for many different languages. I think our most pressing need in Precinct 5, Place 1 is absolutely the ability to communicate in Spanish. That is in the documents that we have, that is in the staff that we have, and that is in the process of the court itself. Certified translators are necessary. They are required under the rules. My policy when I have sat as a temporary JP has been you always make sure that you always ask the clerks to let the clients and the people know, do we need a translator so we can plan for it? Because that's usually the issue with the court, is we show up the day of a hearing and we now know that there is an issue and we haven't had time to make the arrangements that we need. That delays everyone. So starting on that front end with the staff, that when a case comes in, that is a question we ask before something is set so that we can be prepared for it. Budget is a concern because there's only so much money for staff. If we can improve some other areas in doing things like some electronic filing and docketing, that may free up an ability to have a permanent person on staff at all times who can do that job for us. Myself, I am a learning Spanish speaker right now. I have some knowledge from both high school and college. I started a program through Rosetta Stone before the end of last year, and the goal is to be fluent, to be able to read, write, and speak by January 1st of next year when the position would take hold. I'm hopeful that I'll be on track for that goal. I hope folks will be patient with me, but I think that having a judge who understands you and that can speak to you and that you feel like gets it is what's critical in these positions. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, over there in the back. And then we'll move on.
And if I can have, the next speakers are going to be the candidates for Dallas County Clerk, so if I can have Teresa Hardy and Felicia Petrie come up.
While we're waiting. Go ahead.
I just want to know, and it's a question for both of the candidates. You know, we have a lot of problems here, Oak Cliff, Pleasant Grove, with our youth. And we need judges to step up to the plate, because you guys are the first people that do any type of intervention with our kids. That's...
Go ahead.
Hey, here. Speaker.
Ivan, can you check what's going on? Hey, come on. I just want to know what you guys...
Hello. My question is, what do you guys go for our troubled youth in our communities? Because eventually they will become adult offenders, and then they're going to be in our criminal courts, which a lot of our judges know and have first-hand experience.
There's a couple of things that I think we could do. The JP courts have changed in the last few years, and that most of the truancy work that we used to do has been sent out to dedicated courts. So we don't have as much direct contact with kids who are in trouble, but we do have a lot of contact with families, particularly with the eviction docket. And a family who is struggling or is in trouble is where you get kids who are struggling or acting out or doing things because they're in a situation that they don't have any control over. I think that, Jose, like we talked about in the rain that day, having programs in the community and having the courts work toward bringing that back into the community and expanding what's already there is really important. I also think, though, too, that there is a systematic issue that we're seeing, and I think Cockrell Hill is an example right now that you probably have seen what's been going on in the news and the discussions about what the chief of police was or wasn't doing and whether folks were being targeted because they thought there was a higher likelihood that they may not have insurance and their cars should be impounded. There are obstacles that are being thrown up in folks in the way of people just trying to make a living and keep their families moving on down the road that we don't need to have in our area. And as a judge, it's your job, one, to make sure that's not happening with the things that you have control over in your court, but also to be an example in the community and to try to expand those programs and to try to bring education into areas as opposed to expecting folks to come to you when the history may not have been that it was the best place to try to go for help. So I think for us, we've got to start bringing it more into the community and not expecting the community to come to us.
As I said on my webpage since last summer, I would love to see the JP clerks be more involved with our local area high schools. I would love to see a program that I would call Judge for a Day, where we can take kids that are interested in the legal field, legal profession, policing, anything law-related, and bring them into the courtroom so they can get a first-hand experience of what it's like, provide them an internship in our courts. Right now, many college students, high school students intern at Frank Crowley Criminal Court, and that's been a fantastic experience for them. I've seen them as a public defender in my court, and it's been very positive, and I'd like to see that replicated in our JP courts. We have amazing high schools in our precinct, Woodrow, Molina, Sunset, and I would like to be able to reach out to those students and bring them into the fold so that they have different experiences and can be able to maybe pursue one of their dreams, and I would like to see that happen. So that would be my plan for our precinct.
Thank you. Big hand to both candidates. All right, moving on. We have two candidates in a runoff for the Democratic primary for Dallas County Clerk. The county clerk is the one that deals with a lot of documents that we deal with on a regular basis. Our first candidate will be Tarsha Hardy. She currently serves as the vice chair of the Texas Democratic Party and is one of the leading Democratic voices of Channel 8's Inside Texas Politics, speaking out about such matters regarding Democrats that are fighting for here in North Texas. She works for the Communication Workers of America Union, protecting the rights of workers and their families. She's a special assistant treasurer for CWA Local 6215. Before joining 6215, she worked in mandatory 65,000 cases daily for CWA, including filing grievances and handling appeals of workers who have been done wrong. She has plans she has led plans and programs calling for environmental justice, air quality. She's a member of the Association of State Democratic Chairs, the National Democratic Committee. Let's give a big hand to Tarsha Hardy, candidate for Dallas County Clerk.
Thank you. I knew that was a lie, so. Oh, good morning, everybody. Good morning. How are you all? Wonderful. Well, I'm Tarsha Hardy. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come here and talk to your membership about my campaign and my candidacy for Dallas County District Clerk. I am a proud supporter of working families, have been for a very long time. I currently serve as your vice chair of the Texas Democratic Party, but as your next district clerk, I'm committed to making sure that we continue to modernize services in order to save taxpayer dollars and protect that office against financial loss. I know that I have the strongest combination of educational, work-related, political-related skills to make sure that we build a stronger inroads into the district clerk's office on behalf of the community. And I think it's really important to make sure that you have somebody with the skill set to get that job done inside the office, have the competency to get that job done inside the office, but also serve as a leader outside the office. And I think that it's really important that we have someone on the ticket. We need a Democrat that we can be proud of, somebody that is committed to working to turn out our base, make sure that we do all that we can to bring people that haven't traditionally been a part of that process into the fold so that we can get Wendy Davis elected